rock and roll. What's up, everybody? Roberto Hollis here, joined by my man, my brother, Andy Bowie. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. It's good to be here.
So, you've had a big week. You've had a big, intense week. Let's get straight into it. You have launched what?
Launched a new business, which people like you and I are relatively familiar with. You more so than I. But we've just kicked off My Auto Shop. Effectively, we are trying to reimagine the vehicle servicing and maintenance space.
That's a good soundbite. Let's work that back.
Yeah.
Reimagine?
Yeah.
The
vehicle servicing and maintenance industry.
What is it and what does it do?
So effectively, we're a business where we solve two material issues in that space. One is trust. There's a lot of people out there have a lot of skepticism and uncertainty.
People don't trust mechanics, sales, secondhand salesmen, and real estate agents.
That's it, direct to the point.
Yeah, and maybe telemarketer, insurance people. I fucking hate those people as well. Anyway,
Those
continue.
guys as well.
Yeah, so you're basically servicing a market which many deem to be
Yeah.
or not trusted.
Not trusted.
Yeah.
Now, and the reason they're not trusted is there's sort of this information gap that's developed whereby people in today's society have become less and less mechanically practical or just practical full stop. And cars have become more complex, right? So now the gap between what a customer knows and what a mechanic knows is really, really big.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, there's been some mechanics out there that have exploited that. And you roll into a mechanic and you're like, hey, can you service my car, give it a checkup? And next minute, bam, you're hit with like $2,000 bill. And you ask yourself three questions. One, what is all that they're talking about? Two, do I really need it? And three, should it actually cost that much?
Yes, those would 100% be the three. Like, what is a spark plug? Do I actually need it? How much is a spark plug?
Exactly. And then you go out there and try and answer those questions because you're like, hey, I don't trust this dude. I've just met him. And his motives are to make more money.
Yeah.
And then you go and try and find the answers to that question.
And they usually do it through their friends. They're like, hey, does someone know anything about cars?
Yep.
And you ring them up like, yo, it's making the noise like.
Yeah. And they're like, you got to give me more. And your mate who knows is into cars probably just buy some sweet mags, and
Yep.
that's about it.
Yep.
And then you try and find that information, right? And you can't find it anywhere. So
Trusted,
next minute,
yeah.
you're like, all right, I've just got to take what this guy says. So we want to try and solve that and be able to empower the customer. And you can think of us as the business that's on the customer's side, helping them solve this like pretty complex and necessary problem to make it easy. And so you can leave at the end of the day with a car that works and with peace of mind and feel like you haven't been taken for a ride.
So the idea for this clearly is somehow spawned out of your previous role. Maybe gives people the context to what your previous role actually was.
Okay, so I've spent the last 4.5, almost 5 years with Uber.
And actually, while you start doing that rant, we're about to open. So 90% of the whiskey is now either donated or whatever. And so the latest donation from today, this is from the CEO and the team at Māori TV, and they've decided to gift me with a Glenlivet single malt Scotch, and it is a Master Distillers Reserve Solera Vatted. So we're about to enjoy the freeness together. So
I love the hint in there of like, hey, donate me some whiskey. But
hey, look, I'm just saying.
preaching to the dude that's got no money.
Money's cool, but you know what's doper? Flipping good whiskey. So I'll open this. What gives you the right to start a tech company based around automotive industry?
A lot of dumb courage and unjustified confidence. I spent the last 5 years at Uber. I was part of the team pretty early doors that brought our ride-sharing business here, working initially in a marketing space where like right at the start, we were out there knocking on taxi drivers' windows being like, hey, have you heard of Uber? Do you want to drive?
Were you part of the first team in New Zealand that started Uber?
Yeah.
You're right at the start, right?
Joined at the start. After
Yeah.
a few months of they've been setting up shop, I jumped on board. So started there, went and spent a bunch of time with Uber in Southeast Asia, looking after a handful of the countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, that kind of thing. And then most recently came back here not quite 2 years ago and have been running the Uber Eats business in New Zealand.
Yeah. So basically help set up Uber in New Zealand, Asia Pacific work, come back, GM, Uber Eats, understand it pretty inside out. So how did the idea for this actually come about? Where do you see where was the pain point? Was this something that you were seeing from the drivers themselves that were having to go through this, or that you saw that there was a marketplace for those? Like, how'd you how'd this become a thing?
So I was kind of looking around, and I kind of got to this point where I was like, hey, done some awesome fun stuff here at Uber. Great company, have loved every bit of it. Still really excited on my job. But there's this opportunity of, there's this great climate at the moment to start some businesses. And I'm kind of the sort of guy that wants to go out and get it. And I think like there's a lot of people in New Zealand that want to do that, but just need the courage to give it a go. And I started looking around, if I was going to do something, what would I do? And one of the questions you ask yourself straight away is, what's your unfair advantage?
Yeah.
What's the thing that you know that other people don't know that gives you like a step forward? And so I was like, man, I know quite a bit about these marketplace businesses in a tech space. And I started looking around at other industries, and you want to look for really fragmented industries. So like vehicle servicing and maintenance, there's roughly 4,600 independent sort of father-son operated garages around New Zealand.
Mom and pop shops,
Yeah, super fragmented. And this is where like a marketplace model, like an Uber Eats, where you have a heap of restaurants, super fragmented,
platform,
layers over the top and becomes like the umbrella.
A trusted umbrella.
Trusted umbrella.
That's the thing, the trusted umbrella.
Dude, you're not getting wet under that umbrella.
Yeah. So you had the thought.
Yep.
How did you find out 4,600 things? How did you work at, like, how do you start to do the research to know? And I guess cheers anyway. Before
Cheers, man.
Good to see you again, brother.
Happy New Year. You too.
Oh, sheesh, it's a goodie. I've poured another 2 here. Boysies, you want to come snake one?
I was about to say midday. Not often do whiskey, but I guess it's Friday.
Or you with me.
Yeah.
It's fine.
This will be a typical Monday for you anyway.
Cheer up. Well, what, did you ask if you want the extra one so you could try and snake too, Kane? Fuck. This guy. For those that are listening, Kane has just come trying to milk 2 of them. Cheers, boys. Enjoy the fruits of our labour.
Yeah. It's hard work over here.
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah, so continue on.
So looked around and did a bunch of research. I was looking at a heap of different spaces, and there was like a whole lot of different pushes and pulls. And then looked at around the world a lot. The beauty of New Zealand is we kind of lag the rest of the world by a few years. So you can look at other models that are operating around the world. And there was something similar to this in the UK, a business called Fixter that had started a couple of years ago. And I kind of had a good look at that and then came back here and said, what do we need to change for New Zealand and how do we adapt that for New Zealand?
Yeah. And
build a business that's going to suit Kiwis, be branded to Kiwis, and actually suit our marketplace.
So what is so My Auto Shop? Mm-hmm. It's an app?
It is a web platform.
It's a web platform?
So the frequency at which someone needs car maintenance or car servicing is typically like annual. You don't want to have an app on your phone that sits there for a year for you to use it once.
But it's a website that's mobile responsive, yada, yada.
Correct.
Whatever.
And the beauty of this sort of like mobile platform tech now is that you kind of get that app feel
in
your like Chrome browser or something like that.
So it's myaautoshop.co.nz?
.co.nz. Should I say it again?
No, you can plug as much as you want, man. I think what's interesting about this is you've got inside an IP that not many people have, especially in the New Zealand market, being able to isolate and identify the fragmented market that exists and then leveraging the existing trusted platform thing, which you know has already worked and you've helped built it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like selfishly you've got a blueprint for a market that's already validated and known that's not going to go anywhere.
There's a bit of that. The hard part is like, it's a super complex business, man.
Yeah. So how does it work? So I go to the website. So while you tell me how it works, I'm going to go to the website.
So you jump on the website. You'll be able to enter in your car make and model and your postcode where you either live or would want your car picked up.
Yeah.
So like what we're seeing already is a lot of people want their car picked up from work and dropped back to them at work.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it now. It basically says car maintenance made easy.
So you're pick up and drop off. A Ferrari 430 or something, which is your whip.
Dude, I'm on that Lime. I'm stealing your Lime scooter.
You get out my scooter.
So basically, you pick the make, you pick your model, pick your postcode.
Yep. And then you'll jump forward to the next stage. Yep. And you'll be able to select either, at the moment we're starting pretty basic, so a service, a WAF, or a diagnostic if you've got something wrong with your car that you can't quite figure out.
So it's basically car concierge. They will come to your work, pick up your car, do its warrant of fitness and reg, done for you, and drop it back.
And so this is where we have this
it's fucking genius.
Yeah, we've got this awesome group of driver partners that are cruising around on these scooters that I just rolled in on.
Yeah.
And they're picking up people's cars, and they're doing it quickly, man. And the customers so far have been really stoked. They put the scooter in the boot of the car. then drive the car to one of our partner garages.
Yeah.
The garage does the work. If they find anything else on the way through, the garage gives us a call and lets us know what's going on and how much it will cost. We then validate that and go, yep, that's typical for that sort of a car.
And you moderate, yep.
That should cost about that much. So we know that they're not getting taken for a ride. Then we call up the customer and go, hey, Chad, to the garage, it needs this and this. That's pretty typical. This cost is fair market cost. Do you want to do it? They always approve first. And then if they give it the green light, we let the garage know, they'll finish the work, and then the driver partner will come back, pick up the car and drop it back to the customer wherever they are.
This is actually, I mean, you made me aware about this. I didn't dig into the website and stuff, but essentially it enables someone to go online and book it in through someone trusted and done. Exactly. So let's ask this. I'm looking here and it says, free pickup and delivery at the moment is 100% off, which would usually be valued at $38, whatever. How do you make money? So clip the ticket on the back end with the supplier?
Yeah, so effectively what we do is we're working with these garages, and because we are planning to bring them work which they wouldn't have otherwise, so it can be deemed as like incremental work, and we want to fill the gaps in a garage. So if you've got a garage that can do 10 cars a day, but you're only doing 8, we can give you 2 more.
Do they log on just like accommodation would for potentially Airbnb to say their capacity for?
Their availability, yeah. So they have a back-end platform which they can jump into, and they can say, actually, so we set sort of a base rate of how much they can do.
Yep.
And then if they go, oh man, Andy, we're pumped on, let's say Wednesday next week, they can jump in super easily and say we can only do 2 jobs or we can only do 0. And that automatically updates to the front end.
It's almost like the Uber driving of when you can and can't drive.
Correct. Right? Yep.
It's so you enable the back-end engine of the dashboard from a private-facing side in terms of the, what do you call them, suppliers, shops, whatever.
Partner garages.
Partner garages. So the partners will basically, they will pick their availability, and then you know what's kind of available. Now, let's say I'm a sketchy shop.
Yep.
How do you safely...
So you won't be working with us.
I know. But I've got my chop shop out in flipping... I'm in Herne Bay. I've got my chop shop in Herne Bay, and I'm sketchy. How do I know to trust you that the right people are going to do the good shit? How do I know?
So we're working with the MTA, and we've partnered with the MTA, and so all of our garages have passed our MTA members, and then we meet every one of our garages that we're working
individually.
With. Yep. Check their recent customer feedback and make sure that they've got certified mechanics that are working there. So you can trust that the garages that are doing the work on your car are doing the right work and are trained mechanics to do so.
This is not a shit idea, dude.
Hey, thanks, man.
No, it's flipping. Or I can totally see it, right? Because it is a genuine problem people have of I can't trust. And every time they do it, they will ask someone that they know that they trust to then ask that same question.
Yeah.
And so you kind of almost act as a filter that validates the collective, and then you partner with, and then I'm imagining, do you get a percentage of that job on that backside, just like ticketing, right?
Yeah,
inside, outside.
So we work with the garages and we negotiate a slightly like a wholesale labor rate, as you can imagine, what they do for the bigger companies instead of just direct to consumer. So we negotiate for that rate, and then what we're able to do is add that margin back to the customer. And then the customer effectively is getting a fair market rate, and we're able to make a small slice in the middle.
So in broader terms, or to simplify, essentially like when you go to a corporate booking, if I'm buying 100 plane tickets, I might be, the retail for one person is going to pay 500. For 100 tickets might be 300. So you actually make the margin in between the savings of the collective of the group.
Yep, you've nailed it.
Geez, it's a good idea.
And you just thought I was some ski bum hanging out back in the snow, eh?
Well, I think we both thought about each other. Who would have known? Jeez.
Who would have thought?
That's great, though, don't you think? That's awesome. What gets you most excited about coming out of corporate world again to then jump into startup world again?
Oh, man. So when we started Uber, I was literally answering all the customer tickets.
It's I remember.
Dude, I've left my wallet in a car, or I drank too much last night and threw up. And I'm like talking to these people on a Sunday morning. And then we obviously sorted all that out and we outsourced it, and I was management, right? And now I'm back here and phones are blowing up. You made me put my phone on silent.
I didn't. It's Launch's fault.
Yeah, well, he's giving me a whole lot of anxiety as to what's going on.
You can
right
flip
now.
it up and look. I just got
No, dude, I'm here.
Okay, hey, that's cool.
I'm here with the fans.
They can be the fans, we're the fam. It's all good. What's the biggest thing that you've learnt coming second time around to startup world than the first time? Because it changes with the headspace, right?
Yeah.
Coming out of corporate to do the first time is usually naivety with, I think I can do this better. Going back into corporate is like, let me learn some bigger shit higher up. And the second round usually means what?
Second round means what? I think there's like a measured approach. I would like to think I've got a bigger vision in mind.
Yep.
Right now I'm thinking like hours and days ahead, let alone like months and years. But like I put a lot of thought into it up until about Monday. And I think like we know we've got a platform where the business as it stands right now might not be the thing that works, but I think we're in an industry that is ready to change.
Agreed.
It hasn't changed in a long time, and I think we've picked our place right.
And the timing of it, because transportation is changing
so
a lot more, and optically things are moving and shifting differently. So I think the willingness to engage with different.
And I think this business wouldn't have worked if we couldn't have the efficiencies that we have with e-scooters.
Yeah.
So we have this really weird problem, which is different to Uber, where we have one-way trips. So if you think about Uber or Uber Eats, a driver jumps in their car and they pretty much just cruise around in their car the whole time.
Give me Macca's.
Yep. Now what we have...
Got it last night. Don't tell Monty.
Now what we have is like, we're trying to move the car. So the driver actually has to like...
Oh, you're the other way. Yeah.
So like, I'm sitting
It's
there
like
going,
dialer driver, but the wrong way.
correct. And then dialer driver is expensive and is a shitty model because you have
Double
two
up.
people going everywhere. But now we've got these e-scooters that last long enough, can go fast enough, are safe enough, and are cheap enough that you can actually put it in a car and get these people from A to B. And now some of our drivers are like smashing it. They're like knocking out trips so quickly.
For pickups.
Picking up cars and then taking it back to the garage. They'll drop that one off, then go get another one.
On a
drop
scooter.
That one off. Yep, go get another one. And the scooter goes in the boot of the car, to the garage, then off, and they ride to another spot, in.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we had these projections that were like, oh, it might take them an hour or more to get from here to
Smacking
here.
it.
Man, like 20 minutes.
How
Max.
are they monetized? Is it a numbers game like Uber Eats?
So at the moment, we're working through what the best payment model is for them.
You don't want them like upgrading. Someone gets like the 10,000 watt e-scooter, flipping going 150 up Queen Street.
Exactly. They're all... No, that gives me anxiety.
Okay.
They've all got helmets and high-vis vests.
Okay, cool.
And so
That's
they're
cool.
all
And
safe.
branding on it as well?
They've got branding on the helmets and their scooters.
Yep.
So you'll see them out there.
That's great.
So they're cruising. They're not going racy fast. We're being smart. They get some training before they actually get
Nice.
out there. And we're learning a lot on the way through. Payment-wise, we want to get to a per-trip model. At the moment, we are trying to figure out what that amount is.
Have you looked into, you obviously would have, you're a smart man, have you looked into the circle bubbles of how they do with couriers? You know, how they have like the inner city for metro for this, and it just kind of like circulates out. How do you navigate it if someone's, obviously this is, where is myautoshop.co.nz available? Is it just in Auckland?
So yeah, we're covering at the moment, starting pretty tight and inner Auckland. So we're like sort of out Westmere to Newland,
Got
down
it.
Mangere, out to like the Tamaki Estuary and into the city.
And then you will have a radius of scooter perimeter,
Correct.
diameter perimeter,
Yep.
whatever the shit is,
Yep.
from each of those locations. So you've kind of got hubs, and they
From
go in
each
and
of our
out. But then
partner garages.
collectively,
Yep. So
because
we
what's a
have-
range on a scooter? How like what? 30 miles, 30 k's?
You can crank. So we've got some of the longer, faster ones that have longer battery life.
Yeah.
And they've got a range of like 45, 50 kilometers.
Jeez.
So if you think like the max amount of trip you might do might be 5Ks, that's like 10 trips a day. So that's
Easy.
pretty good. And that's like, you just have a few more of them and you're doing.
So you've created a platform that's a website that sends people on scooters to your work to steal your car without meeting them.
They have to sign it.
I know.
You do. So
take your car.
every customer has to meet.
There you go.
Has to meet, and they have to sign in the app. So we have a driver app that they use.
It's genius.
And each driver partner will come meet you, and then they'll take 6 photos of your car. So
Before, after?
Yep. Correct. Front, side, back, and then your odometer as well.
Yep.
And then they will check your tire depth, and they'll check that you've got enough fuel and that you've got a WAF and that
Yep.
kind of thing. And that's all for insurance purposes because every trip's insured. And then they will make you sign to say that, yes, I'm giving you your car. And then on the way back, they'll do the same thing at the garage. and drop the car back to you.
Um,
And you'll have to sign again to say that you accept it back.
Smart. And that's just using a similar process just for, and would that be for insurance purposes as well?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that everyone is comfortable having one of our driver partners drive their car to a garage.
Yeah.
And so, each trip's insured, so your car, you don't have to worry about it all.
And you do the collective insurance across all of it?
Correct, yep.
Smart.
And it also means our driver partners are covered as well, so they don't get stuck or stung on the way through.
There's a lot of, I mean, we're talking about people on scooters and stuff, and we're talking about getting warrant of fitness for car. Isn't it crazy how far tech's come?
Oh, immensely so. And this is why this business couldn't have existed, say, 10 years ago. But because we now need platforms like this, we need technology like that, and then we need customers that are actually comfortable to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where the mindset is changing a lot. E-com's going through the roof. So I think it's just being applied to different systems.
Yeah. And it's always that first wave of like, will you put a credit card number into the internet?
Yeah.
Will you buy something on there? Would you save the number onto there? Would you get an app that does it for transportation? Would you get, and I think slowly the macro trust of all seems to have got to a point where this doesn't seem, it's different, but not crazy.
It's not too far-fetched, right? It's something that Airbnb had to overcome. First time you plug in and go, I'm going to stay at a stranger's house. So I've been doing a lot of reading and listening to different podcasts on how do you build trust as a business.
How do you build trust as a business?
So you put your... There's a handful of different things. A couple that I've really leaned into is one, you want to be as transparent as possible. So like I've put my face everywhere, so you don't feel like you're giving your car to this faceless business.
Yeah.
You're giving your car to me. Maybe that's not a good idea.
It's like, do I trust him?
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
But it's people much prefer to have a conversation than will trust someone.
I agree.
As opposed to a faceless business. And then there's a whole lot of aspects in design and making sure you have that transparency. And you can contact us anytime. We've got a great email and phone support team, myself.
That
thing that's on
flip
airplane.
it up. I feel like you're getting anxious. Turn it up to make sure.
I've put it on airplane mode, mate. No one's in touch.
You've committed.
Got me, mate. This is like date night. Phone's down, away.
Oh, it's awesome. So the biggest thing you learnt from going out of it is think bigger with strategy to scale.
Yeah, I think
money.
so. I think like you can back yourself into a corner pretty quickly. You go, I've got this great idea. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then suddenly you realize that maybe the total size of the pie isn't there. There's not adjacent opportunities and that kind of thing. What we've done is we think we've got an idea, but we know that the industry is big and we know it's ripe for change.
The timing of the macro makes sense for the industry
and
vertical.
as we sort of thought, there's a bunch of adjacencies that could play out. So while we're on literally this is day 5, and like we're going to find out if this thing works. And hopefully it will, because we're on the biggest media channel in New Zealand, most spoken about.
Oh, jeez. Maybe most hated.
How am I trying to build trust sitting here with you?
Yeah. Actually, this might be the worst thing.
All right,
we're flipping done. No, I love the thinking. It makes sense. I mean, you don't talk as much or as little as you want about it. This sounds like a big thing. How do you fund it?
So this is an ongoing question. The beauty at the moment of tech today, again, is there's a lot of off-the-shelf platforms. So we are full subscription based on a handful of them. A great example is SpokePhone, you might have heard about.
Okay.
They actually just raised, I think, another 8 mil the last couple of days.
New Zealand company?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I was just, they were located just in the textile building across the road from Saatchi's.
Yeah, dope. Intro me in, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, well, they've just raised a bunch of money, but they do VoIP phone servicing.
Yeah.
Phone like plans. And so instead of having to sign up, change my phone to Vodafone, sign up to a new plan, and then pay a business plan, and then do that for all the team, we've just all downloaded this app. I literally pay them month on month. And
through the app, it's voice over IP.
Yep, and now I have all our phone. We've got Teams set up. I can turn on a new person, turn it off.
Wow.
And if this whole thing shuts down or falls over, I just turn it off.
Done.
So we've done that with a bunch of stuff, and you go, okay, we're literally running month to month, but it means there's super low capital investment. to actually get something like this.
Power of the cloud, huh?
Power of the cloud, and we're doing it everywhere.
Every little touch point. So how else have you built a $1 billion idea and engine with little money?
Sorry, how do you mean?
Like you've got the engine for it. Like this would have cost you, let's rewind back 20 years.
Yeah.
For you to build what you've done today, how much would it have cost you without the power of the cloud?
Oh, absurd amounts of money. I'm trying to think about all the different platforms we're using.
Yeah, and the teams behind them to build those things.
Exactly. You can imagine like CRM, like we use Salesforce, but imagine trying to build that. You literally have filing cabinets everywhere. Imagine how much those filing cabinets would have cost back then as well.
The metal.
Yeah.
So what gets you? So where's your headspace at? You're in day 5. How do you think it'll be at day 50?
Hopefully a little calmer. We are learning fast, man.
We know we're doing the same thing here. It's nuts.
Exactly. But at the same time, I look at day 50 and I'm like, man, I want to be like 10, 20, 50 times the size of what we are now.
Yeah.
So it's just going to get more mental. But we are learning a lot about like how to manage or how to run a garage.
Yep.
Cars aren't simple. New Zealand's vehicle fleet is one of the most diverse in the world, purely because of how much we import.
Yep.
So every car is different. And it's really hard to sort of navigate that.
Because each different type of car, if they can't go to certain areas, you've got the big funnel to come to your website, but there might be a little funnel to go from South Auckland to North Shore for the one thing, right? They can't scooter that or something.
There's a little bit of that, but it's also like, hey, this maybe a standard service doesn't fit as well for a Tesla or a Ferrari or something like that. And like we're needing to think through, what we're trying to do is simplify a complex industry.
Yes.
And we want to take all that pain and make it easy for a customer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pain on the way through. And then building our systems that we can work with the garages so it's easy for them to work with us as well.
What's been the biggest, what was the moment that you realized you wanted to take the leap and jump to go into this from when you're on obviously a pretty sweet gig? What was took me through the thinking of that moment.
Oh man, I don't think it was one moment. I think there was, it was growing over a while, and I looked at different things such as like, do I take a sweet lifestyle gig, move back to Wanaka, go skiing and mountain biking every day? Yeah.
Nadia Alice was here yesterday.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Rad. I would have loved to see her.
Yeah.
So there was like that all going on, and I think the one moment was I was at home and I was chatting to Mum, and I was talking through all this, and she goes, "What are you doing? Go do something hard. You're not even 30. Go like throw yourself at something."
She said that.
Yeah, she said, "Go."
Dude, Mum comes in with the fire.
Go do something hard, and I feel like I picked it.
Do you think this is hard?
It's a really complex business. There's a lot of moving parts going on. It's a 3-sided marketplace. It's something I don't know. I know a lot about the marketplace side of things. I don't know a lot of, other than building a little race car in my garage when I was a teenager. I don't know a lot about like running a garage.
Yeah.
And then we're introducing a new service that New Zealand's ever seen. There's no playbook to this.
And you're not a mechanic, right?
I'm not a mechanic.
So how have you rolled up to all these different spots and be like, "Hi, I am Andy. I am not a mechanic. Trust me with your business."
That's exactly how I roll.
How have you managed to win over those in a lane that know more about the industry that you're trying to do than they? How do they feel about you?
I think there's a couple of different things in there. I went door knocking to start with, and was completely transparent. And I walked in and said, "I know a lot about running these marketplaces. You know a lot about this. There's about running a garage," and I think there was a mutual respect there.
Yeah.
And then we've worked really closely with a small set of garages over the last couple of months to establish how this business works.
And have you brought them as a collective to have kind of like mini think tanks on with the best way? Because I'm almost sure co-opetition is obviously a thing, but I don't think owners of a bunch of different mechanic shops probably get together and talk about efficiencies in their business, or do they?
Not as much. So we brought together.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So talk me through that, because that's interesting.
We brought together a few different ones that we were talking to that actually hadn't talked to each other before.
Isn't that the craziest thing?
And they've been fantastic the whole way through, and they've given us hard feedback where things we don't think are going to work. You should do it this way. You should do it that way. They've been really transparent with pricing and how we should stipulate things. And they've been the ones that have meant we can grow this business. And they've also been prepared to take a chance with us.
Yeah.
So we're super indebted to them.
That's great.
We're really appreciative, but it often means hard things. I was in seeing one this morning, and there's no we're in a mechanic shop here. There's no punches pulled, that's for sure.
What's the biggest fear you have in not even for maybe your business, but for if it was to fail, where would it fail? If you were to pre-mortem it?
The trust thing is huge.
Yeah.
So like we need customers to feel like their vehicle is in good hands.
Yep.
And I genuinely believe it is, or you're listening, it is. But
all the cred checks and stuff you did.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
But there's things that can go wrong. And if we don't manage it well and we don't give transparency and we don't let the customer in on what's going on, they're not going to have faith in us.
Yeah.
So
and that word spreads pretty quick.
Correct. New Zealand's not a big place.
Yeah.
So
how do you and Uber, when they were planning their rollout, they've obviously, you said, we're a couple of years behind. They would have seen what goes wrong if a driver does something bad or a passenger does something bad or whatever.
Yeah.
So you probably have been able to mitigate a whole bunch of those because you've kind of seen what's come before almost.
Absolutely. So like often these businesses, especially some of these marketplace ones, have really neglected safety right at the start. We've indexed on it really highly right from day dot to make sure that especially our driver partners are in a fit state to be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
They've had all their checks. They've got all the right equipment to do so. And then we've got to make sure that the work being done on a customer's vehicle is up to scratch and our garages that are doing them are under the right level of scrutiny so that when they get them back, they know that when they get the car back, they know that it's safe to drive.
Working for Uber would have got you to see some pretty interesting, not only meetings, but the learnings from global that helped them roll out. What were some of the biggest things you learnt watching Uber scale globally that you've been able to potentially learn from or take?
Huge learning curve from Uber 5 years ago to now, right? It was, like I said, knocking on taxi drivers' windows and they wouldn't know what Uber was. Hard to find a taxi driver now that doesn't.
Yep.
And the same with people on the street.
It's hard to find a taxi driver. Do you know what I mean?
Full stop, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, jeez.
Yeah. So
And that's only in 5 years.
exactly.
Yeah, so
and it went from this tiny little business, or what was it, growing quickly, all the way through, and we IPO'd in the middle of last year, and now it's one of the biggest public companies in the world. And so the change through that was rapid, and it was a roller coaster. There were like great highs when you're growing, launching a city a day at one stage in about 2016, to 2017 where there was a big cultural implosion.
Yeah.
And I think I had a luxury of being in New Zealand and kind of
Watching
from afar, but also being right in the inside. So there was a heap of learnings on the way through that. I think the biggest exciting thing for this is like Uber grew and like ran it expansion really quickly. And I think and they invested in localization.
What do you mean by that?
They dropped a local team into every city, every country around the world. And so they were able to build and localize the Uber business for that city.
So it wasn't just seagull, come in, fly out, fly in,
Correct.
fly out.
And what it meant is it was able to like hyper scale and then got to the point where they went, okay, look, it doesn't make as much sense to have all these people in all these cities. And then they rethought how it was structured. So I think like if there's one thing I've learned is if you click onto something that works, and we're going to learn over the next couple of months if this works, then you'll see us running quickly to go big.
How do you see, if you prove locally in Auckland, starts to get a bit bigger, how, learning what you learnt with Uber, how would you scale it throughout New Zealand fast?
So we've already got people crying out for it to come to Wellington. I'm like, dude, it's day 4. This thing doesn't even work. But we'll be there next week.
Yeah.
So I think you chase population and density. It's pretty important to have that density.
Same structure and strategy as Uber? Overlaying, would they overlay maps, density, like exactly that, right? They map all that out? Like is that a similar vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's super rocket science at the moment, but there's lots of people there. They've probably got lots of money. Let's go there to start with. But then there's also this dynamic here of in the smaller towns, you're probably more likely to know personally your mechanic and probably less likely to use a service like this. So we'll chase the big centres, and then I think once, and man, again, we're day 5, like fully riffing. If it goes well here, like there's nothing like this in Australia.
Yeah.
There's
New Zealand,
plenty of
Australia.
opportunity in the US. You could pump this fast.
So who's the team behind it?
So we've got myself, and then I have this.
Oh, you can't talk publicly about that yet, eh?
What's that?
But
Yeah.
who else is involved?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
another
there's,
partner.
There's myself and
A brain.
Yeah, and then
No, well, no, you know what I mean. Like sometimes
yeah.
there's always a
yeah. But we've got completely lucked out. Was on student job search. I knew I need someone to sort of like run the phones, and I found this guy Sasha, and man, he's a gun. He's 3rd year engineering student, and he effectively is running all our driver dispatch and logistics at the moment. He's crushing out like
Ops machine.
Yeah, and he's killing it. He was like a week in. He's halfway through this week. He's going, oh man, this is intense. And I'm like,
You're like, giddy up.
he's like, if I learn it 1% a day, I'll be good. I'm like, mate, you need to learn it 300% a day, but let's do it.
So basically, you've got 3 people with a national platform with a $1 billion market with 1 million people that you can get to.
That's sort of where we're at. And hopefully we don't need that many more people. The idea is
You won't, yeah.
we can build this small, and we don't need to hire half of New Zealand to do it.
And as long as you drill down on the touch points for a better user experience or customer experience from the other side, and the trust and safety, you just focus on that.
Exactly.
Chief
And
Trust Officer, done.
that's it. And at the moment, like, we're, again, day 5, we're testing. We've talked a lot of this about being the first couple of months as a testing to see if there's a market for this and the like. And we don't need to be perfect, and there's not rocket science behind everything at the moment.
You've just explained what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly. You got to start, right?
Test it, try it, figure out what
Test
works,
and
what
learn.
doesn't.
And then if it looks like it's going to work, we'll go full noise, and we'll build all the jazzy tech that you need, and we'll scale quickly and all that. But at the moment, we need to figure out a priority list.
Yeah, got ya. Very interesting. How, if you rewinded 10 years ago when you're snow ratting it up in Wanaka to now, would you have thought you would have been in a space like this?
Nah, not at all, eh? I was set on the dream of my wee patch of dirt in Wanaka, which is still there, but feels like a distant dream at the moment.
What was the biggest thing that the world of professional snow sports taught you after your big, for those that don't know, you obviously had a pretty big history within that sort of world and high up the food chain and doing all your sort of stuff. What did snow sports teach you around business that's transitioned over?
It's something that we've talked about a wee bit. I think maybe it was actually you that rattled it off at one point, but man, we've done some pretty gnarly stuff. Like, I remember standing at the top of over 100-foot jump that when you took off, you were going 70 kilometers an hour and was planning to go upside down and
Spin,
do a few twirly whirlies.
Yeah.
And going, oh, this is pretty gnarly. And then you come to business and you're like, man, what's the worst that happens? Someone tells you no?
It's like you're at sea level
Yeah, you lose
in a t-shirt drinking whiskey.
Exactly.
At a table.
Yeah, precisely. And so, like, I've seen what risk looks like and feels like.
Love it.
And it's all calculated. And here it's like,
You go home without a cast on and your ACL still work.
yeah, exactly.
Perception of risk. It's something that I've talked about a lot of the perception of risk or actual real risk. You know,
Yep.
military have seen real risk.
Yeah.
Professional athletes have seen real risk. Certain police officers, there's certain individual that have seen that. And sometimes if you're stuck in the bubble of, not stuck in the bubble of small, but stuck in the bubble of sniper scope of, I don't even know if it's naivety, but it's maybe just like too focused to zoom out for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You can way overhype certain things. Like exactly the point I'll say to like young bucks. I'm like, dude, go hard for 10 years, and even if you wake up at 30 broke, you're just like everyone else.
Yeah,
Who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah. What advice would you give a 20-year-old coming out of university now that wanted to get into the business game? And so obviously if they're going to take jobs and stuff, they could do that. But say if they wanted to get into the startup world, you went through the first world of startup world, came back out, went to corporate, came back in. What advice would you give the first time entrepreneur that the second time entrepreneur should have known earlier?
Yeah, I think there's something about like actually knowing something first, in the sense of like, I'm doing a business which I already know how it works and I'm applying it somewhere else. I'm not rolling into this thing being like, I'm going to start a business, I've got no idea how it works, and let's go. because I think that is on way shakier grounds of failing, because you're learning something new with everything, single thing you do.
Yeah. So the know thyself.
And so I guess like I sort of spent the last 5 years literally in training to do this.
Yeah.
And so like I feel incredibly equipped to do it. And so now I'm 29 and am into it. And maybe that's late in terms of when you might start a business. But having said that, I started my first business at 19 running ski camps to Colorado.
Yep.
And I was legal guardian for a bunch of teenagers.
Traveling half around the world.
Yeah, whose parents trusted me again to do that, which was questionable. But you figure that out as well.
Well, I'm sure if a sane adult 10 years ago can trust you with their kid half around the world, I'm sure a sane adult could trust someone else with a mechanic with a car.
Yeah, hopefully.
So is that the business model?
Yeah, something like that.
So if people want to find out more or listen, where can they go to? What can they do? Feel free to plug your shit now.
There we go. So jump on the website to start with, myautoshop.co.nz.
I like the logo, by the way.
Boom. Thank you.
It's tight.
Yep.
I like the color scheme anyway. So continue. Sorry.
Hop on there, have a look around, jump in, pop your vehicle in and your postcode, and just have a look. When you get through to the booking flow, it's real cool when you can pick your slots and that kind of thing. You don't need to book right away. We get that you might have just had a service or something, but think of us for your next one. And then you can go follow us on Facebook. We've got a bunch of Medium posts, which is like sort of about how we think about different challenges.
Okay. That
will be dropping over the next sort of few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, give us a go.
It's pretty cool. My Auto Shop, car maintenance made easy. I'm just reading the website. I don't know. I'm really, this looks awesome, bro. I'm super stoked and proud that you've made a leap and it's looking good. It's looking tight. It's going to be a crazy next 50 days. Maybe we'll do a 50-day check-in. You're on day 5, hyped up and rah-rah.
Yeah.
We'll go to day 50 when the next wave of carnage comes.
Big bags under the eyes.
It's like, oh man, it's going.
Shaking.
It's crazy, but I haven't given away equity yet. It's good. It's good.
I'm struggling. You got any food, bro? I haven't had any lunch.
Thanks so much for listening and tuning in. What's up? I've been with the man Andy from new 5-day old founder at myautoshop.co.nz. Good bro from back in the days, made his world in the tech scene, and now on to the next big challenge. So check it out. Very, very cool. Awesome. I literally just wanted to get you on and give you a plug here because I think it's just rad and cool what you're doing to make the move. So cheers to you, brother. All right, cheers everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day. We've got more stuff coming and rolling. Shook ones. Oh, music bang. This is seamless. Seamless.
Right up. Cheers,
all right,
bro.
team. Cheers, bro. Mean.